War is terrifying, but history has shown us horrors beyond imagination. In this video, we uncover the top 10 scary true stories from World War II. Dark tales that prove truth can be far more chilling than fiction. From haunted battlefields and mysterious disappearances, to secret experiments and chilling encounters soldiers swore were real. These stories reveal the eerie side of humanity's darkest war. Some accounts remain unexplained to this day, buried in classified files or whispered among survivors. Get ready to step into the shadows of history, where the past still echoes with fear. This is World War II like never before. World War II is remembered as one of the deadliest conflicts in human history, with tens of millions of lives lost. Yet beyond the numbers, battles, and politics, the war produced eerie, chilling, and sometimes unexplainable stories that still haunt us today. Soldiers, civilians, and survivors recounted tales so frightening that they blur the line between history and horror. These stories, rooted in truth, reveal that war is not only brutal, but also terrifying in ways we cannot always explain. Here are the top 10 scary true stories from World War II, accounts of supernatural encounters, mysterious disappearances, and sinister experiments that remain unsettling to this day. 1. The Ghost Plane of the Netherlands. In November 1944, Dutch villagers saw a British bomber slowly descending from the sky. Expecting it to crash, they ran toward the wreckage, only to find something strange. The plane landed gently in a field with its engine silent. When rescuers climbed aboard, they discovered the cockpit empty. No crew, no bodies, no signs of struggle. The plane was completely intact, as though it had been abandoned mid-flight. This incident baffled investigators. Some suggest the crew bailed out earlier, but the eerie landing made locals believe they had witnessed a ghost plane. To this day, the story is told in hushed tones as a chilling reminder of wartime mysteries. 2. The Phantom of Tarawa. During the bloody Pacific Battle of Tarawa in 1943, U.S. Marines swore they saw a mysterious figure on the battlefield at night. Soldiers described him as a tall, spectral man dressed in old-style Japanese samurai armor, wandering the ruins. Some believed he was the ghost of an ancient warrior, protecting the island long before the war. Others thought he was a hallucination brought on by exhaustion. But accounts from multiple Marines, written in letters home, match eerily well. Whether a spirit or a trick of the mind, the Phantom of Tarawa gave already terrified soldiers one more reason to fear the dark. 3. The Nazi occult experiments. The Nazis were infamous for their obsession with the supernatural. Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, led disturbing programs through the Annenberg Institute, blending pseudoscience with occultism. Rumors circulated about attempts to summon ancient powers, contact lost civilizations, and weaponize supernatural forces. In Poland, witnesses recalled strange rituals performed at concentration camps late at night, with prisoners used as unwilling test subjects. Some historians believe these experiments were meant to find ways to make Nazi soldiers invincible or tap into dark energies. While much remains classified or destroyed, the thought of occult rituals mixed with wartime cruelty is deeply chilling. 4. The Screams at Auschwitz. Auschwitz is remembered for unimaginable horrors, but survivors reported something even more terrifying: unexplained screams at night. Prisoners swore they heard cries echoing from empty chambers, long after the victims had been taken away. Guards, too, were said to avoid certain blocks after dark, claiming they felt watched. Decades later, visitors and historians still report strange phenomena: cold spots, whispers, and sudden waves of dread. While science may call this trauma and suggestion, many believe Auschwitz remains one of the most haunted places on Earth, where the suffering of millions lingers in ghostly form. 5. the vanishing battalion in Greece. In 1941, during the German invasion of Greece, Allied intelligence reported something baffling. An entire unit of soldiers seemed to disappear overnight. Villagers remembered hearing gunfire in the mountains, but when scouts arrived, they found no bodies, no weapons, no sign of battle. It was as though the unit had simply been erased. Some theories suggest they were ambushed and buried quickly. Others believe they deserted and blended into civilian populations. But the sheer scale of the disappearance and the lack of evidence led to rumors of supernatural intervention, earning it the nickname the Vanishing Battalion. 6. The Russian sleep experiments. One of the most infamous wartime legends is the Russian sleep experiment, a story about Soviet scientists keeping prisoners awake for days using experimental gas. The subjects reportedly went mad, mutilated themselves, and begged to be put to death. While the tale is largely considered creepypasta today, it is rooted in truth. Soviet researchers did conduct cruel psychological experiments on prisoners during and after the war. Though exaggerated in popular retellings, the idea that real people may have been pushed to such horrific states in secret labs makes the story even more unsettling. Sometimes fiction hides a kernel of terrifying fact. 7. The cursed U-boat. German submarines or U-boats were feared across the seas, but one particular story stands out. U-65 was said to be cursed after several accidents killed crew members before its first mission. Survivors reported eerie figures on deck, sudden mechanical failures, and unexplained deaths. During its patrol, Allied sailors claimed they saw a phantom figure standing calmly on the deck, even as the submarine submerged beneath the waves. Eventually, U-65 mysteriously exploded without enemy contact, killing the entire crew. Was it sabotage, bad engineering, or something darker? Sailors whispered that the submarine had carried a curse from the start. 8. The disappearing village of Belarus. After Nazi forces invaded Belarus, entire villages were wiped out. But one haunting account describes a village that vanished without explanation. Soldiers sent to secure the area found homes intact, meals still on tables, but no people, alive or dead. The Germans, fearing partisans, burned the settlement down, but whispers spread among locals. Had the villagers fled so quickly it looked like they evaporated? Or was something stranger at work? With no survivors, the mystery of the disappearing Belarusian village remains unsolved, a chilling reminder of how war erases lives in unsettling ways. 9. The battlefield ghosts of Normandy. After D-Day in 1944, thousands of soldiers died on the beaches of Normandy. Decades later, visitors began reporting strange occurrences. Shadows of soldiers running across sand, phantom footsteps, and distant gunfire echoing when the beaches were silent. Some tourists even claimed to have spoken with soldiers, who vanished moments later. Locals treat these tales with respect, believing the spirits of fallen men linger on the battleground where they died. Normandy, a place of liberation, is also remembered as a graveyard of restless souls. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the accounts are deeply unsettling. 10. The Hiroshima Shadows. Perhaps the most haunting relics of World War II are the Hiroshima Shadows. When the atomic bomb fell in 1945, the blast's heat burned everything in its radius. Yet in some places, objects and people shielded surfaces behind them, leaving eerie outlines permanently scorched onto walls and pavements. These silhouettes are not paranormal in the traditional sense, but they are horrifying, frozen reminders of lives erased in an instant. The shadows are all that remain of men, women, and children caught in the explosion. Unlike ghost stories, these are real imprints of death, silent, chilling, and unforgettable. Why these stories still scare us? The reason these stories remain frightening is not just because of ghosts or curses, but because they remind us of the fragility of life during war. When human suffering reaches such extremes, reality itself can feel distorted. Psychological impact. Exhausted soldiers often hallucinated, but many accounts share consistent details too precise to dismiss. Historical secrecy. Both the Nazis and Soviets conducted experiments still hidden from public records, leaving space for legends. Lingering trauma. Haunted sites like Auschwitz and Normandy are heavy with the emotional weight of millions of lives lost. These stories endure because they reflect the dark side of human experience, the unknown that thrives in times of chaos. Shadows of War. Scary true stories and mysteries of World War II. World War II is remembered as one of the most devastating conflicts in human history. It was a war fought not only by soldiers and generals, but also by entire nations, civilians, and communities swept into a storm of destruction. Tens of millions died. Cities crumbled. Families were torn apart. Yet alongside the familiar accounts of battles and political strategies, there exists another layer of history, one made of mysteries, hauntings, and chilling stories that refuse to fade away. Whether one believes in ghosts, curses, or simply the darker aspects of human behavior, these tales from World War II remind us that history itself can sometimes be scarier than fiction. War has always created legends, but in a conflict as global and catastrophic as World War II, those legends often took on eerie, supernatural, and terrifying forms. Below, we explore how the Second World War was not only a struggle of armies and nations, but also a period that generated mysteries and chilling stories that still echo through time. War and the human imagination. War places human beings under extraordinary stress. Soldiers fight exhaustion, hunger, terror, and trauma. Civilians live with fear, displacement, and loss. In such circumstances, people often perceive reality differently. Shadows become threats, noises become omens, and unexplained events turn into legends. This does not mean all wartime mysteries were hallucinations or exaggerations. In fact, many of the chilling stories from World War II are backed by consistent eyewitness accounts, military reports, or physical evidence. Others remain unresolved, caught between history and myth. Ghostly machines and phantom encounters. One of the most enduring motifs of World War II folklore is the so-called ghost plane. Several stories describe bombers or fighters that continued flying despite damage, or even with no pilots on board. Perhaps the most famous occurred in 1944, when a British bomber landed in the Netherlands with no crew. Villagers expected to find bodies inside, but discovered the aircraft eerily empty. Skeptics argue that the crew must have bailed out earlier, yet the strange smoothness of a landing puzzled investigators. For the locals, it felt less like a technical accident and more like a haunting, the war itself taking on ghostly form. Phantom soldiers were also reported across multiple battlefields. In the Pacific, Marines spoke of a spectral warrior wandering Tarawa. In Europe, Allied troops reported seeing figures in outdated uniforms moving across battlefields long after the fighting had ended. Were these hallucinations, or did war awaken something buried in those blood-soaked lands? Haunted battlefields, Normandy and beyond. The beaches of Normandy, where the Allies launched D-Day in June 1944, remain some of the most sacred and haunted sites in Europe. Thousands of young men died in a single day, and many never received proper burials. Visitors today describe hearing phantom gunfire, voices calling in foreign languages, or seeing soldiers who vanish when approached. Historians may attribute these experiences to imagination, but battlefield hauntings are a global phenomenon. War creates concentrated sites of suffering, and many cultures believe that trauma leaves behind spiritual residue. In this sense, Normandy is not only a place of liberation, but also a graveyard of restless souls. The Nazi obsession with the occult. Few aspects of World War II are as chilling as the Nazi regime's fascination with the supernatural. Heinrich Himmler, leader of the SS, was particularly obsessed with Germanic pagan traditions, mystical artifacts, and supposed lost civilizations. He founded the Ahnenerbe, an institute tasked with uncovering ancient knowledge that could give the Third Reich power. Rumors spread of Nazi expeditions to Tibet in search of spiritual power, rituals performed at Wilsburg Castle, and even attempts to weaponize occult forces. While some of these stories are exaggerated, the fact remains that Nazi ideology was intertwined with mystical and pseudoscientific beliefs. This makes their crimes even more unsettling, as they mix brutality with a desire to manipulate unseen forces. Experiments that cross the line. While ghost stories capture imagination, the real horrors of World War II were often man-made. Both the Nazis and the Japanese conducted terrifying experiments on human beings. In Auschwitz and other camps, Joseph Mengele and his colleagues used prisoners in inhumane medical trials. In Manchuria, Japan's Unit 731 performed biological and chemical warfare experiments, infecting prisoners with deadly diseases. Some of these experiments sound like the plot of horror films. People exposed to extreme temperatures, deprived of sleep, or forced into conditions designed to test human limits. Unlike ghostly legends, these atrocities are well documented. They remain some of the scariest truths of the war, proof that humanity itself can be its own worst monster. Vanishing soldiers and lost villages. Among the strangest wartime mysteries are cases of sudden disappearances. In Greece, Allied intelligence once reported an entire unit that seemed to vanish overnight, leaving no trace behind. In Belarus, German soldiers described entering a village only to find meals still on tables, but no people in sight. These stories could have logical explanations, ambushes, evacuations, or errors in communication, but the lack of physical evidence turned them into chilling wartime legends. To survivors, they suggested that war had the power to make people disappear as though swallowed by the earth. The lingering echoes of Auschwitz. Auschwitz and other concentration camps are now solemn memorials, yet they are also places where strange phenomena are still reported. Survivors often spoke of hearing screams at night, even when the barracks were empty. Guards too admitted to feeling watched or hearing whispers. Today, visitors describe sudden chills, feelings of dread, or sensing unseen presences. For some, these experiences are psychological reactions to a place of unimaginable trauma. For others, they are evidence that the suffering of millions left a permanent spiritual mark. In either case, Auschwitz embodies the idea that some parts of history are too heavy to fully leave behind. The cursed machines of war. Technology played a major role in World War II. Yet some machines developed reputations for being cursed. German U-65, a submarine, was believed by its own crew to carry a dark fate. Accidents plagued it before its first mission, and survivors claimed to see ghostly figures on deck. Eventually, the submarine exploded mysteriously, killing all aboard. Similarly, certain aircraft squadrons developed reputations for bad luck, with multiple planes crashing under strange circumstances. Whether mechanical flaw, coincidence, or something more, soldiers often saw these incidents as omens, an added layer of terror in an already terrifying war. Hiroshima shadows, ghosts imprinted on stone. Perhaps the most haunting relics of the war are not legends, but physical evidence. The Hiroshima shadows. When the atomic bomb detonated in 1945, its blast produced heat so intense that it permanently scorched outlines of people and objects onto stone walls and pavement. These eerie silhouettes are not supernatural, but they carry a ghostly weight. They are the imprints of lives erased in an instant, reminders that death can leave behind more than absence. In a sense, these shadows are the most undeniable ghosts of World War II, silent witnesses to the dawn of nuclear horror. Why these stories endure? The question remains, why do these stories, whether ghostly, mysterious, or rooted in cruelty, continue to haunt us decades later? War magnifies the unknown. In the chaos of battle, the line between reality and imagination blurs. Collective trauma leaves marks. Sites of immense suffering feel different, even to those with no direct connection. Unresolved mysteries endure. Missing soldiers, unexplained events, and classified experiments keep questions alive. We fear our own reflection. Many of the scariest World War II stories are not supernatural, but human, the reminder that cruelty and horror are possible within us. World War II was not just a struggle for territory or ideology. It was also a confrontation with the darkest corners of human experience, and perhaps with forces beyond our understanding. History that haunts. When we think of World War II, we often picture tanks, generals, battles, and treaties. But beneath that layer of history lies something far more unsettling. It was a war that produced ghostly legends, mysterious vanishings, cursed machines, and haunted landscapes. More than that, it revealed the terrifying capacity of humans to harm one another in ways that still chill us to this day. Whether one believes in ghosts and curses or views these stories as metaphors for trauma, the fact remains. Parts of the past are too eerie to ignore. World War II created scars not only on the earth, but also on human memory and imagination. Even now, more than 80 years later, the shadows of that war stretch across our present, reminding us that some histories never rest quietly. They linger like echoes in haunted places, like whispers in the dark, warning us not to forget. Thank you for watching our journey through the top 10 scary true stories from World War II. These chilling accounts remind us that history isn't just about battles and victories. It's also filled with mystery, fear, and the unexplainable. If these stories gave you chills, don't forget to hit that like button, share with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe for more dark tales from the past. Have you heard other frightening World War II stories we missed? Share them in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and never forget the shadows of history.